Welcome to In a Crisis Family Matters. We're here today with Hsing, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Dialogue Restaurant in Santa Monica, California. And as you know, this video blog was created to try to help those who are most impacted by this COVID crisis and see what we can do to help. So, Anne, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. How are you holding up in the midst of all this? How are you keeping your sanity?
We are one of the fortunate few restaurants that have managed to pivot to takeout somewhat successfully, if you consider successful, barely breaking even, for both of our restaurants here. So we have Dialogue in Santa Monica that opened late 2017, and then we just had a new restaurant opened down the street in Santa Monica called Lee in September of 2019. Mm-hmm. So after Governor Newsom gave the order on March 15th to close down all dining rooms, we pivoted very quickly to takeout. Made a few stumbles along the way, but finally feeling a little bit of rhythm in terms of the operation of how we go about doing takeout, but also just constantly pushing and striving every day to get a better sense of it, make it feel a little smoother, make it feel a little more doable.
Mm-hmm. And what's involved in making that pivot? Because I mean, your whole business model is fine dining, kind of at the table, and now you're being asked to pivot to takeout. How do you do that?
Yeah, great question. So I have to admit, when the order first came, it felt a little bit like the government was saying, oh, you can just do takeout. It should be really easy because you make food, so just make it to go. I do get a sense that they're understanding a little bit more. I think it's through a lot of education from people in the industry as well as the public who are helping petition the government. But takeout just doesn't happen overnight. Our food at both restaurants are meant to be plated at that moment for the guests to enjoy it right at that moment. So let's say you were eating at Dialogue pre-COVID-19. It's a 20-course meal, and everything is plated in the timing so that when the plate hits you, is set in front of you, it's at the exact temperature that Chef Dave wants you to enjoy it. So if you were to get up and go to the bathroom and didn't come back for 5-10 minutes, the piece of beef that he maybe had ready for you is now cold. So he would actually throw it out and start with a whole new piece of beef, so that way you have it exactly the way he intends you to.
Wow.
Yeah, obviously that model is not really meant for takeout. So it's the idea of first coming up with what food can be put into a package, sits for a little bit, and then taken home, so that when you, the guest at home, enjoys it, it's just as good as if you were sitting in the restaurant enjoying it. And then B, how do we even do that? We don't have takeout containers. We don't even know which takeout containers are best for our food. We don't even know what takeout containers are kind of available. It's all from thinking, oh, I got takeout from this one place once. I think they had this kind of vehicle to use, or takeout bags. We didn't even have systems set up how to take orders online. We were debating whether or not to use third parties to do delivery. Just all these things that if you're not a normal takeout restaurant, you have to basically come up with an entire new business model. And because of the timeline, we had to do it very quickly. Restaurants are a cash flow business, a very sparse cash flow business. It's almost like paycheck to paycheck. And for especially a place like Lee that's new, we didn't have a huge cash reserve built yet. So it was really important for us to get a viable business model up and running as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Now, I noticed you had a background in finance and working for a bank beforehand. How does someone choose to go from that to the restaurant industry, and how do you make that career transition?
So my background is probably not typical of what you would find of someone working in the restaurant industry. And what's funny is since I've worked at Alinea and now here in my position, I get a lot of people ask me how I got here. And I think, my background is in consulting and finance. I have an MBA from Northwestern, so I love Chicago. And I had just been working in finance for 4 or 5 years and decided it wasn't for me. This was post financial crisis, and started to reevaluate maybe what I like to do. And obviously, like most people, I really enjoy going out to eat. I really like the experience of sharing a meal with my friends in a nice restaurant with all the ambiance and the service. And it just so happens my mentor and my boss at Credit Suisse, where I worked, her husband was actually the opening chef for 11 Madison Park. So I asked him for advice. I said, the restaurant is the business. So I want to know how I become that person that helps the chef make the business decisions. And this was 2013. And he said, well, typically that person is somebody who has risen up through the ranks with the chef. So you start as a server, and then you maybe move to general manager. And then as the chef expands and grows, that general manager goes on to be that role. The other path could possibly be if I was extremely senior with an investment banking background of some sort, and then got pulled into a larger restaurant group, although I was looking to stay more small. And so he said to me, do I think that you could go into a restaurant right now at a entry-level position, work super hard for 3 to 5 years, make yourself to general manager, and then eventually become that person? Yes. But is that something you really want to be doing right now in your life? And at the time I was 33. So I thought, you're right. I don't think I want to be, I don't know if I am ready to take that sort of gamble. So left it at that. Just totally luckily, I had resigned from Credit Suisse, and then I saw that Steve Bernanke, the CFO of the Alinea Group, posted for a summer intern for at a position working under him. So I applied, and basically 1 month later moved to Chicago to work as an intern at the Alinea Group. And then 2 months later, I was asked to stay on as a permanent hire, and then was there for 3 years. So, I don't know if my career path is typical or if that's the way anyone should go, because I do think it is a product of luck.
Yeah.
I happen to have been leaving my job at a time when this renowned, extremely successful group happened to be looking for an intern. But, that being said, I think I've seen now a few more positions coming up, and that could lead to this path.
As the COO of the restaurant group, you're intimately kind of involved in the economic impact, both from a financial perspective and a human perspective. How has this COVID crisis impacted the financials and the people in the restaurant?
Yeah. So again, great question. All your questions have been really spot on so far. First, as soon as we had to close our dining room, we had to make a really tough decision, because obviously we can't keep up our payroll if we have no income. And even the income that we are making now is, 15, 20% of a normal income night. There are outliers when we do specials like the Passover dinner, or this weekend we've got Mother's Day brunch coming up. But on average, it's 15 to 20% of normal income. So Dialogue actually had to cut its staff in half. And then at Pa Jolie, we had to furlough all of our hourly employees and then shift the managers to hourly as well. As we have ramped up our takeout, the intention is, how do we create some sort of business model and system of takeout so that we can produce more food as long as the demand warrants it, and also keep our employees safe. So at Dialogue, it's a little tougher. The whole place is 700 square feet, but we're located in this food hall. So what happens is we've got employees in the food hall, in the general space that's close to the public. They're using that space to pack up food so that we can maintain the 6 feet distance. And then at Pa Jolie, at most, we always have 7 employees. 7 employees is the most number of employees in the 3,500 square foot restaurant, and we use the entire place. So the kitchen, the dining room, every place is used to pack up food or, cook or prep. Sometimes the chefs will even sit in the dining room and just prep some of the vegetables. It just makes sure it's safe. And with that, we've been able to hire back a few of our cooks at Pas Joli. They only get one shift a week, but it's better than nothing. And we just have to constantly be re-examining how much money we think we can make versus how much we can pay out. One of my first things I did in the first 2 days was, okay, how much revenue do we need to make every night to break even from a labor and food perspective? And then as soon as we knew that target, we just knew if we were going to hit it or not. And if we weren't hitting it, the question is, can we pivot and figure out a new model to help us do takeout better? Or do we need to just close and sit and wait and see what happens and reserve our cash? Which, I've seen restaurants go both directions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and how fortunate for Dialogue that they have you in this spot who can do that modeling, because I would imagine there are a lot of restaurants out there that don't have somebody with the financial acumen to do that kind of modeling and say, where do we need to be? So what are you hearing from your people about the impact of all this, the people that you've had to furlough, and how are you taking care of them?
So we pay for everyone's healthcare, and that has not stopped. I've kept everyone on payroll and I've said very explicitly to them, unless you don't want to be on payroll, let me know. We're fortunate in California that they're able to file for unemployment, even if they remain on payroll, if they have reduced hours. So the first thing was told everyone, apply for unemployment right now. And then I send 2 emails a week, just checking in with staff, asking them if they need anything, and just give them updates as what's happening on our side. This is what we're doing with takeout. We're, very transparent. We do this many meals a day. We're doing our own delivery now. So we actually decided not to go with third-party deliveries. We do our own delivery, and that helps keep 3 of my front of house employed. Mm-hmm. Again, 1 to 2 shifts a week, not that many. And then, our plans, these are our plans on how we're going to reopen. This is the timeline we're thinking. But the best thing I think from our end as an employer is to just keep in constant communication with your staff and be very open too. Sometimes I say, I don't really know what's going to go on. I don't really know what the government's going to do. This is what we're thinking we're going to do. And then tell them what we're doing. So, at Pas Joli for the healthcare is something that is a very important issue to me. I've always been fortunate enough to work in jobs prior to working in the restaurant industry that provide healthcare for free for me. And when I entered the restaurant world, it's just not something that is common. Mm-hmm. Of course, this was before the Affordable Care Act. And when Chef Dave asked me to join him in opening Dialogue, we agreed that we would put culture and the company culture as the top priority. So how we make all of our business decisions has culture in mind. So even though agreeing to pay the $10,000 healthcare bill for all of my employees every single month isn't necessarily the best from a strict numbers standpoint, isn't the best business decision. It is best for what I believe is our company culture and our values in terms of everyone deserves healthcare. Right now is the worst time to take people's healthcare away. Yeah. And so we have to come up creatively. Okay, how are we going to come up with this extra revenue? So what we ended up doing was he has these Basque cheesecakes that, I don't know if you've heard, they're kind of becoming a thing all over the Basque cheesecake. But when we opened at Dialogue, it's the one thing that's been on the menu since day one. And it's only reserved for if you are celebrating an anniversary or a birthday. You get a slice of this cheesecake. People go crazy over it. Yeah. So we decided, let's sell whole cheesecakes. And we're just going to put all the profits towards healthcare. So this was end of March. I said we have to sell 250 of them, and then we're out. And it was, an overwhelming outpour from our guests of everyone just wanting to support. Some people just wanting to donate. And so we sold the 250 in a week and a half. Our poor pastry chef just spent morning to night cooking cheesecakes. And then we were done with that. And then I decided, well, maybe we should just continue to do it and then keep our fund while this whole crisis is going on. So we know that they'll always have healthcare until they come back. Mm-hmm. Because the intention is we love all of our employees that work with us currently. So we'd love to hire them all back as long as they want to come back. And as a result, like keep them on payroll so they can have their health care paid for. But we want to make sure we have the money to pay for it too.
Yeah. I mean, take away 85% of your revenue, but continue your expenses. That's a tough choice to make. And it's great that you're doing that and in taking care of their healthcare because, as you said, health and mental health are really important at this time. Actually, I have a family that I work with that's got a restaurant group and they didn't have mental health benefits, but they're doing the same thing that you are is they're continuing to pay the healthcare benefits and they added mental health to the healthcare because they figured everybody was going to need it. So a lot of our viewers are out there kind of stuck at home and wondering how they can help. What can people who are stuck at home do to help folks in the restaurant space and help your folks in particular?
Yeah, I guess if, obviously takeout, but I know everyone can only handle so much takeout. Gift cards are a great way to help. It's just a way of showing support and gives a little bit of positive cash flow to the business. And I would say just spreading the word. If you have a great takeout experience, spread the word to your friends, your family, because that networking effect will help build that specific restaurant's takeout business. Is really the best things I can suggest. I mean, I'm unbelievably grateful for all of our guests here in Santa Monica and LA and how supportive they've been. And it's amazing to see the repeat guests. I was actually having an email exchange with one of our guests saying how he thought it was so funny that he's a repeat customer for takeout. It's been a really great way to stay connected with our guests and feel like we're able to provide some sort of familiarity or comfort because this is really unprecedented times. Nobody knows what's going on, but it's to have a meal and maybe have it be a little fancier than you might be able to cook yourself and that might feel a little normal. A lot of people will send us photos of how they plate all of their food and their nice china and have a nice glass of wine, and it could feel a little bit like you're having a normal night out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and it keeps the brand alive too.
Yes.
Keeps your brand front and center. So, are you guys still doing the Basque cheesecake, and can people order that?
Yes, we still are. It's available online at our website. So Pajoli is actually selling it. It's www.pasjoli.com. And you can see the week's menu. There's a link with how to order online, either for pickup and delivery. And if you don't want a whole cheesecake, Dialogue over here, they do 3-course meals with a meat and a vegetarian option every single week. It's a salad, your main course, and then a slice of the Basque cheesecake for dessert. And our website's dialoguerestaurant.com, so you can buy that online. They're pickup only here. But Dave has been just kind of going back to his comfort food roots of pot pie, stroganoff. We had Wellingtons here as well. They're doing this weekend also buco for Mother's Day. So it's just hearty, comforty food over at Dialogue. And then at Pajoli, we're doing French classics, coq au vin, beef bourguignon, cassoulet, duck confit. And every Sunday there is fried chicken because everyone loves fried chicken.
Making me want to move out to Santa Monica.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the cheesecakes don't ship. We tried.
I guess I'll just have to fly out once the travel ban is lifted. So.
Yeah, you can. I can actually send you the recipe. We gave it to the LA Times 2 years ago, and people have been trying to do it at home. I think home ovens don't get as hot as our commercial ovens, but it's still. I mean, I would eat the batter. The batter is so good.
Excellent. Great. Well, thanks very much for your time, Ann, and we're going to do whatever we can to help the folks on the front line. So thanks for sharing your story, and everybody who's out there in LA, go out and help Dialogue and Pajoli and all the folks out in Santa Monica.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Thanks, Ann.